Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good afternoon, son. I'm going to try to couple some information to what we were gifted with and enjoyed on last Tuesday, maybe Sunday. Paniwadi, in her teaching, in her talk, she talked about the fact that at different times in the information that we retrieve in this day from what was said in the Buddha's day, was that sometimes they were talking to lay people, citizens of the village, and sometimes they were talking to monastics. And I thought that was an important thing to underline, to underscore, because it determines, I think, where we set our expectations. And even though the Buddha might have been talking to monastics as opposed to ordinary lay people or lay people, I don't think that we should diminish or dismiss the information that he shared with monastics in our own walk, or your own walk, towards understanding the Dhamma. So don't dismiss it just simply because he was talking to this group or that group, but use it all to understand what he was saying to all of us. And we've been studying the concept of what is to be cultivated and what is not to be cultivated. And so we even get it from a broader sense, because there are times when Paniwadi or Master Zazi are talking to us
And they're talking from a whole different perspective because they're talking about, they're coming from a position that includes Rinpoches and Dharma kings and ordinary lay people. But my point is, we should love ourselves enough to know, or enough to try to understand the information no matter where it is disseminated. We shouldn't dismiss it and say, well, yeah, I won't listen to that, or I will put that aside because they weren't talking to my category of people. That's what I'm saying to you. I used to be very irreverent in my young years, and that's why it took me so long to understand a little bit of this. But I used to say to people when they would tell me about what Jesus did and what he didn't do, and what the disciples did and what they didn't do, I would always retort, yeah, well, that's easy for him to do. He was the Son of God. So you can't expect me to behave like that. Well, I had to stay back because of those attitudes. So it took me a lot longer to begin to understand what it was that they were sharing. So I'm saying to you from the very beginning, no matter what you hear, do your best to understand it, or do your best to find sources of understanding so that you can walk and develop your potential, just like those arhats and those enlightened ones did many years ago and are still doing today. Don't shortchange yourself. Everybody understand? All right, great. Having said that, I'm going to try to present a concept, and I hope it gets through. So getting back to the idea of what it is that we need to cultivate in our walk and what it is that we don't need to cultivate in our walk. So we understand, first of all, that our mandate is to cultivate what it is that causes our things that we do, that we project on the world from our little corner, our little pocket, that causes suffering and misunderstanding. That's what we shouldn't do. That's what we shouldn't cultivate. And things that do create understanding and growth, those are the things that we should organize and cultivate. And in the Majjhima Nikaya, there is a sutta that carries a description or the title, to be cultivated and not to be cultivated. And it tells us, well, first of all, the beginning tells us that he was talking to monastics. Like I said, don't let that turn you off. Don't let that cause you to dismiss it. So he lists the different categories, or he talks about the different categories of what it is that we should cultivate and not cultivate. Coming from a Theravada perspective. And he says, verbal contact, bodily contact, or conduct, bodily conduct, verbal conduct, mental conduct, acquisition of view, acquisition of individuality, and inclination of mind. Are things that we should work with and understand and present in a very positive and healing and informative way. And so again, bodily conduct, verbal conduct, mental conduct. Those are the three that we usually think about. We usually gather together while we're determining how we're going to walk in today. But I'm saying that we, in order for us to develop the depth that we need to develop to really be successful at this practice, we have to, first of all, understand all of the categories that are included for us to observe and to modify according to the results that we see perceived when they are put into the world space. But we must also just understand the categories so that we can apply them to how we interject and intervene in our day with our relationship with others. There is a category called acquisition of individuality is of two kinds. Now, the first thing I did when I read that was to say, what is he talking about? Acquisition of individuality is of two kinds. And here I am thinking that, well, all I've got to do is cover bodily, mental, and verbal. And if I keep my eye on those and are pretty specific about what they contain in their messages to others, I'm in good shape. But now it's telling me I've got to also keep my eye on the acquisition of individuality. Does anyone know? Okay. Neither did I. That's why I caught my eyes. Like, well, what is he talking about here? And to show how deep the teachings go, acquisition of individuality is talking about what potential, and Panyawadi, you can, I know we talked a little bit about this morning, so you can jump in at any time. What potential that we have from the energy of rebirth. In other words, we can look out at the world that we exist in, and we can see many different expressions of humanity. And we have these over here that we might label as a little deranged, a little crazy, a little insane. And we have these over here who are angelic, and everything in between. But what he's saying in the sutta is that although there are opportunities to grow out of what we came here as, or our propensities that we brought with us as we were introduced into this level of existence. We have to understand that there are some that we will be able to modify and change to a higher good for others who are around us. But also, there might be those individual characteristics that we come into this reality with, that no matter how much we practice, we might not be able to change them to something very different from what we came with. So you see, it's very complex. It's not as simple as A and B or black and white. And this is one of the things that in many suttas he speaks on, that this Dhamma is many levels and very difficult and deep. But I am saying to you, don't despair. Don't say, oh, geez, well, I'm not Buddha and I'm not Jesus, so I might as well just give up on this stuff and be crazy. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm offering this information to you as I'm offering it to myself. I'm eating it myself to let you know that it's not as easy as you think it is. That there are people who will say, oh, that's easy, I understand that. I can just skim on by that. I don't have to practice that. And I'm saying, no. Everything that is offered for practice in these books of Dhamma that come from the enlightened ones, that it is up to us who aspire to be our best. Read, study, research, walk out, talk about, practice, and everything else that you can do. Engage with others of like mind or that you think are like mind. So that if it is our time to grow, then we won't waste it in this incarnation by not utilizing the teaching in a social, responsible way. Acquisition of individuality. So, would anyone like to tell me what it is that they experience when they find themselves mindful of practicing their practice? Especially the practice on being present to cultivate the correct quality of relationship with others, with the world. Do you understand my question? Yes? Okay.
We repeat it one more time.
Yeah. What is it that you experience, or do you experience anything? I mean, you don't have to, but do you experience anything when you observe that you are growing in your mindfulness or your observation of what it is that you should cultivate in this particular situation with this particular person? What do you feel? What do you experience? Does that mean that nobody's practicing this?
When I notice in a particular situation that there is some growth, and based on what you were saying, I think of like a certain relationship that has been very difficult over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I notice just a slight change in thought when I'm around them, certain things
Mm-hmm.
that I know are thoughts that are going to move me towards where I say I want to go,
Mm-hmm.
it brings up confidence
Okay.
within myself, even in the slightest moment, that I can continue to go the whole way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great, great. So to dovetail on that, I know when there are the few opportunities when I get it right, I feel a joy because, for one thing, it validates the fact that the stuff works. More than anything else, it's like, damn, I can do this. It works. It makes it different. I don't come off as the same obtuse individual that I had been for 36, 42, 53, 72 years. That by modifying and being mindful and presenting to the experience the appropriate energy, by being there with it, being present with it, respecting it enough to care enough to be present with, to love and respect the individuals that I am interfacing with enough to be present with. Because in the past, we have been attentive to some people and some groups and some things and some places, but not others. This person is important, so I'll do this. I'll put my best behavior on for this person. I'm trying to get a loan from them, or I'm trying to get a marriage contract from them, or I'm trying to do whatever I'm trying to get. When we're trying to get something from somebody, we tend to be thoughtful about what we say and what we do, the emotion and the energy that we bring to the table. But when we just consider them ordinary, not particularly equipped to give us what we want, we tend to just sort of dismiss the whole moment. And I'm saying that those moments, in my opinion, are the ones that are most valuable. Because we can see how deep and complex this practice is. So therefore, whenever we find ourselves with the opportunity to get an easy answer, get an easy resolve, do things the right way with a insightfulness that we don't usually have, that's the time to use this and practice with it and walk with it. So I'm saying, don't throw it away because it appears to be easy. Use it, milk it. It's a gift. Acquisition of perception. Inclination of mind. I mean, just in that very finite place where you notice that consciously you happen to be here as opposed to usually being here. Where did that mind come from? Why am I thinking that way? Why do I feel predisposed to saying or doing this to that person, but not to that person? What I'm saying is that every moment presents an opportunity for us to learn not about them, but about us. It's about always walking with the attitude, how am I doing today? What am I giving the world today? When I find myself being angry at someone, something, then I've stepped off the board. Because that's not what this is for. It's not to aid me in learning how to be more angry at those who are deserving as opposed to those who aren't. What we're practicing is that no one deserves my anger, including me. It's saying, here's another opportunity to learn how to change your mind. And again, one of the things that I like to note is that repenting in Aramaic means to change your mind. So when we read other scriptures, other books of information that use the word repent, then we should understand that that is informing us that in our situation right in this moment, and the attitudes and energies that we hold and bring to the situation right in the moment, against the people who are in the present moment with us, that we should change our mind if we find that it shouldn't be cultivated. That we should take this time to ask ourselves, how can I move from this dark space that I'm feeling right now with this person or with this event? And how do I make it a bright, loving, kind situation? How do I cultivate positivity in this moment? So it requires that we always stay close to, involved with the relationship, the experience, and all of the people who are there with me in this moment. People, our reference to people that I know here, the people who are in the Dharmacharya programs, past and present, they have a tendency to want to put on a game face or a game heart when they're in a particular situation. When they're getting ready for a Dharma talk, it's like, oh, I've got to go on, I've got to get all my stuff together. I've got to get this right. And I'm saying every moment is your game plan. It's about giving others the best information that you have at your disposal, so that they and you can walk and develop into a better character of individual, which means not better in the sense of, oh, they're better than them, but better in the sense that there is no thought of them being better than them. But there is more of a thought of an opportunity to walk with this guy because they're great. Not that they're better, but they're great. They're a joy to be around. They're a joy to talk to. They're a joy to help out. These are the things that the Buddha and others are trying to tell us that we should cultivate. To have that joy, to have that presence, that development that's kind and generous and open. That means that we have to be there with them and with ourselves at every minute. Mindful. Mindful, being present in the moment without an agenda. Without an agenda. With the attitude of, how can I help? What can I do for you? So, first of all, are there any questions? Yes.
It's not so much of a question, but more of kind of a review of my connection to others. And I'm thinking of this last time away. In the very first morning, I was sitting having breakfast by myself with my journal, having some time to collect myself. And this person that's going to be part of this group walks in. And right away, I noticed the package of the person, and I could feel the tick, 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 you know, the arrow going back and forth. And then she looked at me and kind of did this, kind of back, and went, "Oh, I see your writing, but you can write anytime." And sat down. And I thought, okay. And I was really working. I felt that needle going back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, I just spent all these hours on a plane. I was in a different time zone. And away she went, talking. And I learned her whole life in about 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I just sat there and I kept working. I had to work to open up that heart space. Mm-hmm. But I did. Mm-hmm. And I kept breathing. And it was overwhelming. And I realized my awareness is that it's easy to surround myself around people that are like-minded or that are easier to be with. And stepping in and being present means getting outside of my normal daily functioning of people I see and be with. Mm-hmm. And to really step in and And so over the next 24 hours before we got on the plane, the sad news is that she didn't get her test. It didn't come, so she was unable to go on this trip. And my heart just broke as the rest of us got on the plane. And there she was. The director was just beside herself, but there was nothing. Yeah, it was what it was. But I noticed in the moment, it was this, I was working this. And I realized how I've not put myself or frequently enough, I think, to really practice and test that sense of wanting to be open. The judgment wasn't there, but I saw it coming. Let it go. So I really appreciate this today because it just helps me look at this from a different lens.
You know, there's a piece of advice. It says, be careful about what you wish for. But first of all, thank you. But secondly, my advice to you is to continue to wish for those challenges, because those are the things that will make us grow in our own understanding, will make our own individual walk more representative of what it is that we say we're about. Take less time to be more receptive. You know, notice how much time you spent welcoming the person, and try to work on that time, collapse that time, so that you will begin to be able to, as soon as someone needs you, and they need you, or they indicate they need you because they're approaching you out of all of the places they could go, right? And all of the people they could talk to, they came and honed in on you. And it's like, oh, what an honor. Someone needs me. Someone needs me. Someone felt my heart and my openness, and they needed me to welcome them. And in those spaces, when that happens, that's where your joy will abound. Not that anything in its own individuality gives us that joy, but it's the joy of that putting it together and realizing, oh, I got it, I nailed it. I nailed it. I didn't spend one period of time trying to dismiss or get away from or be uncomfortable with or whatever the case might be. But I got it. And there's a joy that you don't have to develop. You don't have to inspire it. You don't have to seek it. It just rises up. It's not egoistic. It's just like, wow, I'm finally getting this stuff. Let me see if I can do even more. And that's what consciousness is. Let's go find some more people I can hug. Some more people I can make feel better. Ah, it feels good. Good work. And the turtles loved you too. Anyone else? Panwani?
No, I'm gonna save my own one because it's so used to be this would be really angry.
Okay. All right. Well, then that does it. we're going to do a little meditation. I'm going to ask you to look back on the last couple of days, see the experiences that you can walk in a little better than you did that time. That's what tests are about. That's what review is about. It's not about making us feel stupid or any of those things. It's about the development of that joy that I was talking about. It's about, as yeah, I know Travis, but I don't know
Santikara.
Santikaro. How can I forget that? Now I've forgotten what I was going to commend you on. However, if you notice, I just smile at those things. You know, back when I was a not so conscious person, I smoked a lot of weed. And you talk about stuff for the one or two here who remember. And then all of a sudden you forget what you were talking about. However, you didn't get mad, you didn't get angry, you didn't apologize, you laughed. And everybody around you laughed. And then there was another focus of conversation. And I remind myself of that. Because it just makes more sense to me. If you forget it, you forget it. And out of all of this, I still can't bring it up. So I'll move on. All right, let's watch the mind for a while. want to thank all of you for spending time with me today. I appreciate it. Love you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Deepa.